Serious question, were you aware that we are in the middle of a horsepower war? Apparently I didn't get the memo, and it's unlike the horsepower war from back in the 60s between Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler, where they used to beat each other up. Here it's about SUVs, not muscle cars, and frankly, it's not differing car companies beating each other up, it's one car company that's warring against each other from different countries, but doing so with effectively the same 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8 and really the same platform. So it's kind of like different divisions of General Motors beating each other up back in the 60s. However, these cars are significantly more expensive and can go way faster. So with that, let's drive the one that now is, I think, the fastest. So before you and I get too far down the road today, let's recap some of the most recent entries into this intra-Volkswagen Auto Group SUV horsepower war. There was the SQ8, there was the RSQ8, then there was the Bentley Bentayga V8, we have yet to drive the 12-cylinder, then there was the Lamborghini Urus, and now the fastest, or what I like to call Der Schnell Cayenne. This one, like all the others, is starting from the basic building block of a 4-liter twin-turbocharged V8. So how is this one different? Well, this application is 631 horsepower and 626 pound-feet of torque. Yes, that's less horsepower than the Lamborghini. However, how does one get 90 extra horsepower and 59 pounds of torque out of the same engine in a Cayenne? Well, you could fool with the boost pressure, and in this case, it is now up to 23 psi. However, you really can't stop there when you add that much extra output. So they changed the pistons, the connecting rods, the crankshaft, and the timing chain. But wait, there's more. Remember that titanium exhaust option that we experienced in Österreich with the Cayenne Coupe version, where it had this really cool looking center exhaust, and the idea was to lower the weight and improve the efficiency of the exhaust system. Well, here, it's a version of that. It's bespoke for this car because they take out the central muffler and it lowers the weight on like a car that's almost 5,000 pounds by 40 pounds. Porsche is very proud of this. Okay, now that we're all clear on that stuff, do we really need to cover fuel economy? I thought not. Let's press on to performance figures. And there, did I mention that we are in the middle of a horsepower war? 0 to 60 for a vehicle of this size, that is that tall, 3.1 seconds. As it relates to the Lam truck, that is 1/10 of a second quicker. In terms of VMAX, the Lam truck kind of beats it out. 190 for the Lam truck, this 186 miles an hour. Now, before we press on to driving the vehicle, would very much like to ask your help with the algorithm here, and that is clicking like, leaving a comment, yes, subscribing, click notifications, but most importantly, sharing these episodes with your friends on all the usual suspects of socials, but most importantly on Reddit. Would greatly appreciate your assistance in helping us get the word out. Yeah, it's heavy, but it's not as heavy as previous Cayennes you and I have driven. 5,000 pounds on the nose, or depending on how you express your weights and measures, 2,268 kilograms. Now with that, Sport Plus mode, and yet another flavor of Go Fast Cayenne. Oh yeah, 3,000 RPM, oh God, yeah. I'd say this thing, okay, gotta come off, this thing is crazy fast. It's more about 3,500, 4,000 RPM where this thing really takes off. The way this delivers power is a bit more frantic than the turbo we've driven previously, although it's missing something under 3,000 RPM. Around town, you don't notice it, but when you come out to a place like this, or I'm thinking on a track, granted, I do not know who would take this to a track, but really what I'm looking for there is a bit more torque coming in, say, from 2,000 RPM. Then there's the transmission. We've kind of discussed this in previous Cayenne episodes. This is a torque converter. It is not the dual clutch PDK like we've experienced even in the 8-speed and the Panameras. And here it works well. I haven't had a situation where I've been denied shifts, but I have noticed a different character between basic and Sport Plus modes. There are very mechanical, well-placed shifts in Sport Plus mode. You'd almost want to drive it in town in Sport Plus because it's more fitting with the character of the vehicle. And that's something that works hand in hand with that is specific to this vehicle is the exhaust system. Now you can't honestly tell a difference in performance because of the exhaust or really the difference in weight. Really what's going on here is the sound changes. There's this like sucking sound that's amazing. Actually, have you ever seen the movie The Car? When that car would chase the baddie or the person it was trying to kill, you'd hear that sucking sound. That's what this thing is like. It makes the vehicle sound so sinister and mean. I kind of like it. Okay, so yes, the acceleration is indeed a big deal here, but I would argue a bigger deal is the driving dynamics. And here we have to break it down. This is not different than any other Cayenne in terms of the hardware. What is different, all the optional chassis control systems that you and I have experienced in basic Cayennes all the way up to the Turbo SE Hybrid, that is fitted as standard here. So four-wheel steering, PDCC, PASM, everything is fitted as standard to this vehicle, but it's tuned differently on this vehicle. So you have the four-wheel steering, you have the adjustable dampers, and you have the 3-chamber air ride, but this is set up 15% stiffer, and then the ride height changes. It's 17 millimeters lower. Then they fit the carbon ceramic rotors as standard. Here it's 440 millimeters in the front and 410 millimeters in the back. Then the calipers in the front, those are monoblocks. And there's a rather big change in terms of the setup of the steering. Yeah, it's recalibrated both front and rear, but more importantly, the wheels change. I can't believe I'm saying a gold wheel is attractive, but really what's different here is the front wheel is an inch wider, and you notice that significantly in, yes, the ride quality, but more importantly, the steering. It's direct, there's good feedback, but there's significant weight difference here. I don't know if it's the tuning or if it's the extra inch of width at the front wheel. Either way, there is a difference. It's very noticeable. It's something that does make a difference driving it around town, but here it is magnificent. Now, what does that mean in practice? Well, driving it around town, it takes a bit more to manhandle this thing. It takes a bit more to weave in and out of traffic because you have so much more rubber and wheel in the front of the car. But up here, that kind of just melts away. It makes it a bit more aggressive. You can push it a bit faster and feel a bit more confident. But there, like other Cayennes, it's not fighting. Do we go this way or do we turn the car this way? It's very well balanced between front and rear. Now, clearly that's a big function of how they're managing the torque from the front to the rear of the vehicle. And I gotta believe if they've put all of the chassis control changes as well as steering changes into the Turbo GT, they probably made changes to the all-wheel drive system. This way they can send more torque a bit faster in this case, as opposed to a regular Turbo Cayenne. At least that's what I want to believe. Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game, Mind the Absence game, with today's contestant, something that could only be referred to as the newest, biggest, baddest, fastest Cayenne in the West, or the East, if you really think about it. The 2022 Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT for a base price of $180,800. Now, I do feel it prudent to point out this is only on offer in the Cayenne Coupe bodywork. One cannot have the Turbo GT engine in the long roof Cayenne. With that, we need to press on to the color. This you and I have never seen before. It is Arctic Gray. It is new, however, it is only on offer with the Turbo GT. Now, as lovely as this looks, I can't help but thinking this is a very period color, meaning this period of time. Something tells me in like 20 years, you and I are gonna look back and see this and say, yeah, that was a great color in like 2021, but today we'll do something different. Anyway, we press on to the insulated glass, $1,130. The head-up display, one of my favorite options, $1,720. Then the surround view camera. Why is this optional in a $180,000 vehicle? $1,200, can we fix this? The soft closed doors. Again, why is this optional in a $180,000 vehicle? $780, really? Then we press on to something that is not entirely useful here in Southern California for the majority of the year, but is definitely useful in Deutschland, where this car was flown in from. A headlight washer system, $490. Then an ionizer. You know how Mercedes-Benz has the ionizer in the glove box? Well, Porsche's doing it now for $350. Then the ambient lighting, $430. Four-zone climate control. Why is that optional on a $180,000 car? $990. Then a Qi wireless charger, also optional on a $180,000 car, $690. Now, believe it or not, those are the only factory serial production options fitted to this particular car, which would make it unlike any other Porsche you and I have featured on a round of this game. But there's another reason why it is unlike any other Porsche we have featured in a round of this game. That's because it has a hell of a lot of Porsche exclusive manufacturer options. Things like the puddle lamp projectors, love those. The neodyme Porsche logo, you gotta pay extra for that on the side of the car. The LED headlamps, the clear tail lamps, the tack in neodyme, that's optional. The Sport Chrono, that being in neodyme, that's optional. Then an option I am a complete sucker for, the steering column finished in leather. You can call me an Anglophile, but when you see these things in person, it is incredibly cool. Then the model designation on the armrest. You would think that's a bit garish, but it's kind of cool when you see it in person. Then the floor mats and the trunk mat with leather trim around the edges. That's a trick, I'll have to admit, they steal from the folks in Sant'Agata Bolognese. All of those options together, $5,590. The only other thing we add is the destination handling, not von Zuffenhausen, rather Bratislava, $1,350, bringing us to a total retail price of $198,690. Put another way, 100 large cheaper than the Lamb truck. Now, it's entirely possible one would think the changes would be limited to up there and underneath here. Apparently, that is not the case. Yeah, it looks like a Cayenne coupe. There are some changes in the front, really can't notice it there. Although I would love a different front end because it's too like open fish mouth. The wing in the back does change. It's a combination of the wing from the coupe. However, they included bigger gurney flaps there. You notice them off to the side, and they are, from what I understand, 2 times larger than that on the Cayenne coupe. Then, of course, the wheels and tires. Yeah, they're specific to this car, especially the finish, but also the tires. They're Pirelli Corsas that are specific to the Turbo GT. Then inside the vehicle, there are some significant changes that, believe it or not, in a Porsche are fitted as standard. Like, look at all the suede or Alcantara, whatever you want to call it, on the steering wheel, on the headliner, on the sides of the seats, on the door panels. That is all fitted as standard. Something you really don't see on other Cayennes is this bit up here, which really makes a difference and looks stunning. I would argue it changes the tactile feel of the inside of the car. And then the back seats. Remember when we drove the Cayenne Coupe in Österreich? We learned there that there was a 4-place seating package, kind of like they have in the Taycan. Now, it's not like an S-Class where it's electric seats in the back. It's just 2 seats instead of 3 seats and a console. That is the only way one can have the Turbo GT. You cannot put a third rug rack in the back. And then speaking of compulsory, the roof. Notice it's the carbon fiber roof, and yeah, the idea is to lower the weight. I think that's odd on a 5,000-pound vehicle, but one cannot opt for a glass roof like they can in a Cayenne coupe. Now, there is one more change you and I need to discuss. However, this one is not specific to the Cayenne GT. It is just the first Cayenne we are seeing it in, and that is the UX. They've taken the UX system from the Taycan. We spent a lot of time talking about how it's completely different from other Porsche UX systems in an episode about a year and a half ago. Go check that one out. It's completely different. It's like a switch from Mac to Windows, or really Windows to Mac, because they're using more of a graphical user interface as opposed to the clumsy system they had before. That said, it does bring about 2 rather large changes. Number one, and this one has been smacking you in the face throughout the entire entire episode, notice the orientation of the iOS system of Apple CarPlay. It takes up the entire real estate of the screen. That is a big change. Vielen Dank. Then something that I personally am not excited about, but I know from the comments you guys will be very excited about. This system supports Android Auto. So if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, it is the first Cayenne that will support both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, some feedback here in terms of using it on a daily basis. I didn't get a hell of a lot of time with this car, and this is a very early pre-production prototype. It's been flown over from Germany. It takes a while for this system to boot up. I noticed this in Taycans as well, and it's more of a problem in Southern California in July when it's 90 degrees, because the HVAC system really works through this. Yeah, you can do this here, but what happens when you don't have the compressor on, or you need to go in and change the flow of the air? That's something you need to think about, and it's not just the HVAC system. These systems, they need to be able to boot up faster when you get into a car. They can't be like a computer, even like a phone, where sometimes they just don't react when you switch them on. And here's my feedback to the folks at Porsche. I get it. You want to try a new UX system. That's what the cool kids want these days. But the reality is, nothing beats in an automotive application having a knob, a hard knob or a hard button to control frequently used items. Let's bring those back to hard controls, knobs, buttons, toggle switches, and then you can have all the fun you want with a fancy new UX system. Deal? So full disclosure, when I first saw the announcement on this thing, I immediately thought it exists because Urus. Then spent some time with it as you saw it today, and now I have a completely different appreciation for this thing. You see, there are indeed some folks who are bean counters at Porsche that said, wait a minute, if Santa Agata Bolognese is making this much money on that thing, we need to make a more expensive Cayenne. However, when they spoke to the engineers kind of gave them that crazy look, and they said, okay, Chief, you want a faster Cayenne? We can do that. But instead of making it like an Urus, they decided this was the perfect opportunity to finally make the Cayenne that they always wanted to make, money no object. And that is what the Cayenne Turbo GT is. And that, of course, brings us to the wish list. And here I can go in one of two different directions. There's the obvious, say it with me, a 48-volt mild hybrid system. Here it's more important in other applications because it really does need torque lower than 3,500 RPM. Then there's the other direction, and this is something that's more pedestrian, and perhaps I'm being pedantic, but this is 200 large. Base price 180, and you still have to pull the key out, hit the button to unlock the vehicle. It is optional to have the keyless entry. That is unacceptable. I don't care how fancy the manufacturer is or whether they're based in Germany or Italy. Get what I'm saying? And this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV, all one word, MotoManTV, all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And yes, I would once again like to humbly remind you that I would greatly appreciate your help with the algorithm, which, yes, is comments and likes and definitely subscribing, hitting notifications, but most importantly, sharing these episodes with your friends on all your socials, especially on Reddit. Till I see you in the next episode, bis später.